Welcome back to the 19th hole. Jake here, joined as always by Mike. Thank you guys for tuning in this week. We are coming off of the heels of the US Open, and we have the Travelers Championship coming up this week. And if you know anything about Travelers, you know it's a big charity-focused event, and who needs charity more than family? I don't know. That was the best segue I could come up with there. But with the IBT Golf family, which is what we want to talk about here, it is the free-to-join way to gain access to our chats, chatting with our analysts, potentially gain access to our contests, such as our PGA One and Done contest, as well as getting free entry into our memorabilia giveaways. For $3.99 a month or $36 for the year, you do get exclusive access to our weekly betting model, as well as our full weekly betting cards and all of the picks that we make throughout the week. You'll get some stuff for DFS as well, a little bit of everything there. And the nice thing about this membership and joining the family is that it's not just for golf. You get access to the football family, racing family, and entertainment family. So do not miss out on your chance right there. But we already alluded to it. The US Open was just last week. So let's give ourselves a little recap. Mike, you were unfortunately not on the show with us last week for the US Open, but Keith and I did hit the Wyndham outright. Did you at least tail us on it?
He was a DFS cornerstone for me, not on my outright card, but a DFS cornerstone. Did well enough there.
Yeah, it was a great tournament from Wyndham. If I'm not mistaken, the first wire-to-wire winner in US Open history.
I think I saw there's a number of firsts this week. I'm sure we'll get into it, but yeah. Is that right? First wire-to-wire winner in U.S. Open history?
I thought I saw that. I could be incorrect on that, but
Tiger didn't even go wire-to-wire in 2000 when he won by 15.
Let's look here. All right. But yeah,
crazy stuff.
Let's just give a quick breakdown of the tournament and how it went for everybody who wasn't able to watch it. It was your typical US Open. It turned in, the first 2 days, I saw a bunch of stuff on social media, a couple, chats that I'm in. People are talking about like, this course is too easy, blah, blah, blah. And then it turned into carnage, and we get, I will say we doubled the number of players that have ever played a US Open at Shinnecock and finished under par this week. Because
it was 3, right? Yeah. So how did we had 1.5 last time?
No, I'm saying in the history of this event, 3 people had ever finished under par. And
I see. Now there's 6. Yeah. But, okay. So here's the thing. The USGA has to walk such a fine line with this,
right?
And if it goes the other direction, then we're talking about the course being unplayable, and it's bringing in all types of controversy of whether or not, frankly, we should even award a champion because the course wasn't fair.
You can't even. It's like every other year that has been at Shinnecock where they have to admit that we lost the greens. We exactly. know that players can't hold them.
That's the bit, right? Phil Mickelson hit a moving putt because he thought it was advantageous to stop it from going off the green. That's not the arena that the USGA wants. And so they have to walk a very delicate line. And this is not the same as a number of golf courses that we've talked about this year where weather is the main defense. This golf course is going to be hard whether the wind blew or not. And whether the wind was blowing 50 or was blowing 25, it was still playing very difficult. And so for those that wanted to see enormous scores and a +3 winner, I mean, frankly, that kind of comes down to a little bit of maybe where the weather shook out and the wind direction. But you have 3 guys finish under par. I think the course was plenty challenging, and it forced enough punishment where bogey was the score you made if you did not execute 3 or 4 or 5 perfect shots on the hole. And that's what you want the US Open to do. So I do think that the USGA is in a tough position. They can't have a bloodbath because if it's a
Right.
bloodbath, then you have asterisks all over the leaderboard. And so I think this result maybe was like a little softer than we wanted Shinnecock to be, but I don't think it could have gone the other direction. And so
Well,
I'm happy with the result.
and I liked how it played. I like when the event gets harder on the weekend. Like the course played very differently Saturday and Sunday. We can see that by the scoring averages, and you can see it like going into Saturday. We had, I think it was like 12 players who were under par, and then we end with 3. Like it got harder throughout the weekend, and we saw guys like Russell Henley go 10 over, William Mao 10 over, James Nicholas went 12 over on one of the days. The course played extremely difficult, whether it seemed easier prior. I think part of it too, it just played it played very much how I predicted it to play. Accuracy off the tee mattered, play around the green mattered way more than I think most people expected, more than I expected, and I expected it to be very important. And then putting. Iron play was actually below typical correlation of event scoring.
So I would like to dig in, and I did not do this. Maybe this is homework. Dig into the actual role of accuracy on this golf course, because these are not wing foot narrow fairways with punishing rough right off to the side. These are 60-yard wide fairways that allow guys like Wyndham Clark to hit banana balls all over the place and still get himself in good position. So I do. Pure accuracy numbers are very interesting this week. I'm not saying it wasn't a factor, but this does not play like a U.S. Open with 25-yard fairways.
Right.
What I really want to say about this golf tournament, though, is I love the U.S. Open. I love this golf tournament. I think I love the Masters more from a pure like lore and legend standpoint. Like that whole week is so incredibly special. But if you like watching professional golf and you want to see guys basically rise to the top of their ability and execute golf shots and have to think their way through grinding rounds, the US Open is for you. It's different than the Open Championship, which can do the same thing, but is so weather dependent. The US Open is all about setup and pressure. And you see how that, like kind of your point with the scoring averages, you see how that pressure mounts all the way to the last few holes on Sunday, where guys are sort of, the intensity is building and these outbursts are starting to happen. And I feel like when the winning putt is made, and it's been a while, and maybe it's been that we've had a couple of close US Open finishes the last handful of years, but when the winning putt is made, this like outpouring of emotion, because it's been so built up for 72 holes leading up to that. I think at the Masters, the difference is you have a lot of guys in the Masters field who, a lot of them are on like lifetime exemptions. And they're just happy to go on the walk at Augusta and be a part of the process, whether they're really challenging to win or not. But at the US Open, every person has earned the right to be there that year, and they kind of let it all out there. So I think the crescendo of the US Open is unlike anything in golf. And when you put it on courses like Shinnecock and you get the setup right, it really makes for good theater.
Absolutely. And, speaking of good theater, I mean, we got that out of Wyndham Clark throughout the tournament. We saw him go out and shoot a 64, take the lead right away. I think they said it was like 7:08 p.m. on Thursday. He got the lead, never gave it back. And clearly shooting a 64 on the first day of the tournament will help you do that. But it wasn't an easy tournament from there on. It was 69, 70, 73. He was 3. Like, you look at his event strokes gained, and you're like, oh yeah, he played well all throughout the bag, all 4 days. Cool. And then you click on round 4 and it's like, he lost strokes with the putter. He lost strokes around the green. He lost strokes on approach. He was solid. Like, he gained strokes off the tee, but it just goes to show you that like the pressure does level up in the event. And you see it with Sam Burns, the runner up in the event. He was 2 inches away from winning this event. He had 2 putts, sniff the edge. And if he makes both of those, Wyndham has to make birdie on the last as opposed to par.
So I did the math on this because I had this in the notes as, how do we process this? Sam Burns is anecdotally one of the best putters on tour. And I'm challenging that moniker, not statistically, but going to challenge it after this because those are 2 putts that I don't know that he should have made both of them. But the probability of him missing both is about 48%. So it's a coin flip. It was a coin flip that he was going to miss both of those putts. Which means I think it's about a 51% chance that he should have made one of them. And so he would have had to beat the odds slightly. And I think that to be one of the best putters on tour, you have to show us that you can make an 8-footer or a 17-footer with the tournament on the line, and he did not.
Right.
Now, Sunday afternoon greens at Shinnecock, after all those footsteps and the crustiness and all that, he might have hit perfect putts. And I think he did hit a perfect putt on 18.
Agreed. Yeah.
The putt on 17 was uninspiring.
Yes.
The pass that he took at it, but on 18, I think he took a bold stroke that didn't go in. And he could have hit a bump or whatever, but I'm pretty disappointed in one of the best putters on tour not coming up with a way to hole one of those when he had already burned edges basically the entire round.
Right.
And he could have been right there. So that's bummer. Not that I was on Sam Burns this week, but I would have loved to see this get real close.
Yeah. And like we said, Sam Burns, this is the second year in a row that he's been in contention at the US Open, and one way or another kind of faltered down the stretch. Last year, obviously, we had the standing water incident. Was there standing water? We all saw that. There was water there. He probably should have gotten relief. This year, it's those putts. If one of those putts drop, we go to a playoff. I think it's anybody's tournament. Anybody can win in a playoff. But I mean, like you said, it was a tournament of firsts in a lot of ways. We see Tom Kim have one of his best major performances of his career. Keith Mitchell becomes the first player ever to go 70, 70, 70, 70 in a U.S. Open. Literally first player ever to shoot even par every round.
And what did he shoot in the first 9 holes of those 470s?
41.
Unbelievable.
He goes 41-29. He was getting ready to book a flight home. He was taking the Jason Day path out of there. Day obviously was injured or was he? I don't know. That's a conspiracy theory that my buddy and I were actually talking about on the course on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, you go out there, you shoot a 41, you shoot 29, get to even par, and then you just play par golf the rest of the day. And there was I think it was a Jack Nicklaus quote where he was like, if you shoot 280 at the US Open, you probably win. And he's like, unless you're playing against Ben Hogan. And I mean, even par was a phenomenal score. Even par got you a top 5 finish this week. And 6 guys did it. Scotty was one of them. We saw Scotty beat Wyndham in the final round. Scotty 2 strokes better there, but he was a stroke better than Wyndham in round 3. He was a stroke better than him in round 2. It's just the discrepancy of one guy being able to go 6 under on a US Open opening round and the other guy going 2 over. It's the level of this event is hard. It's a damn hard tournament to compete in. We saw some, fun names at the top 2. Joaquin Niemann has his best major finish of his career. We got Gary Woodland, Terrell Hatton in the top 10, Sam Stevens in the top 10. My namesake, John Perry, guy who 4 years ago was on mini tours and records a top 12 at a US Open after as a rookie on the PGA Tour. It was just a great event. And I think anybody who didn't think this was a great event, I don't know what you wanted out of this.
I think if we could put a bow on this, as I'm staring at Wyndham's his picture here, the banner, I'll ask you, is Wyndham a PGA Tour villain?
I think so, but not in the way that we would traditionally think of a villain. He's I'm thinking kind of going in wrestling, the wrestlers are heels both for the fans, but they also are that way in the green, or in the ring. It's not like Wyndham's out there talking smack to players. He's not chirping guys as they're getting ready to take shots. He's probably as close as you can get to being a heel in golf, just because, I mean, it's they say it's a gentleman's sport. You'll get probably tossed from a tournament if you're trying to scream while your playing partners are lining up putts or at the top of their backswing. But it's just his antics off the field. And I know a lot of people keep bringing up like what he did at Oakmont. That's less of a big deal to me than his whole, oh, we got to shrink the tour, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, you're kicking yourself off the tour in 90% of the years that you've played professional golf, if that's your logic.
And that's the one I kind of forgot about, was he literally trying to pull the ladder up behind him once he climbed out into the top 100. He was like, let's get rid of the rest of those guys. I agree. I think he is not villainous. He's not evil. He is, first of all, he used the term heel in one of his press conferences this week. And he said, if that's the role I got to play, it's the role I got to play. He is who he is. And he kind of wears it all out on his sleeve. And we should be familiar with some of these personalities. Look at Wyndham was probably told that he wasn't good enough for a very long time. Yeah. And he bounced around a couple of different college teams. He loses his mom, who is his golf mentor and idol, at a very formative age when he's 19, 20 years old, and he really spirals and he develops a temper. He does a lot of things that he probably shouldn't have, and he's been forthcoming about the things that he shouldn't have, and we've held him accountable for that. I don't think he's evil. I think he's just not super likable. And the PGA Tour has, for whatever reason, has sort of built this image around these family, certainly the PGA Tour, it's these family men and the gentleman's game and all that. And we're so used to seeing these guys come out with their families and their kids. And so on Father's Day, it's, I think, pretty ironic that you get a winner that his golf mentor was his mom. He's not close to his dad. In fact, he said something to Tarico like, my dad hasn't really been around my professional career. And so his dad surprises him. NBC tries to make something out of it. The dude hates kids. He already was on the par 3 tournament at the Masters saying that
good birth control.
Birth control. He shows up with a different girlfriend than 3 years ago, which is fine. Does she happen to look exactly like the girlfriend from 3 years ago? Yeah, maybe. But also fine. So he's a kind of a Derek Jeter type. Yeah. He's just not the guy that the PGA Tour wants to stand up like a Scotty Scheffler or a Roy McIlroy and all those things. And that's fine. So he ends up being a heel, but he's not an evil villain.
Right. 100% agree. And, I've said it plenty of times. I don't like Wyndham Clark. It's entirely because of the whole, as I brought up, the ladder pulling up thing. Do I think he's inherently a bad dude? Absolutely not. He's a guy out there playing golf who, like most of the guys that we do love on the PGA Tour, has been through a lot in his life, has battled a lot of adversity to get where he is, and probably deserves the ability to be a little bit of, an arrogant player at times. Like, I mean, especially when you consider the man's got 2 U.S. Open victories under his belt now. He's a 2-time
kind of what it takes, right? Like, who are the last 2 guys to win 2 U.S. Opens? Him and Bryson. Like, you need a massive chip on your shoulder to win in that arena. And I go back to you were on, and Brooks, like look at that. In the last 10 years,
villains.
Yeah, last 10 years, the guys who felt like they had something to prove and have won 6 of the last 11 U.S. Opens. And so I think it is interesting that I think I whiffed on the LACC comparison here in terms of kind of what it was going to take to get it done. And Wyndham should have been no surprise. They've also been playing great golf this year. So we'll see. I don't know. I kind of feel like I need him to win another major now to see how this plays out. The girlfriends, the family, I need to know more about Wyndham.
You either got to win another major or like win a different major or just become the U.S. Open guy. Just like make it clockwork. Like don't win another U.S. Open until 2029. And then I know just to bet on you every 3 years at the U.S. Open. Just give me the pattern and we'll take it.
2029 is Pinehurst?
I believe so.
Feel like that could be a Wyndham venue.
That kind of feels like a Wyndham course. Dang it. All right. Well, I'll lock that bet in now. But speaking of the betting side of things, we know that is why y'all are here. So let's get on over to the Caddie notes and start breaking down the Travelers Championship. We have TPC River Highlands this week in Cromwell, Connecticut. And Mike, I know you always give us the best breakdowns of the courses. So tell the people what to expect this week. You are muted.
You know, I really put in the work when it's courses I don't really care for. And this happens to be one of them. Despite TPC River Highlands being one of the most loved locations on the PGA Tour, it's not because of the golf course, although it is a very interesting golf course to handicap. This typically gets rave reviews from tour players and tour players' families that Travelers just takes care of them at this stop. You said it's very charitable. It has a lot going on off the golf course. And so it gets it. Now it's a signature event now. But even before that, it got pretty premier players just in the fact that it took care of everybody in tow. But TPC River Highlands is one of the shortest, if not the shortest golf course on tour this year. A par 70 clocking in at 6,852 yards. And this is a Pete Dye design, but I do find it to be a little bit of a Pete Dye design in disguise. You sort of work through the parkland space, the houses, the neighborhoods, but it does get some of the Pete Dye characteristics of being a positional golf course. It's going to force you to think your way off the tee. However, this is a less than driver golf course at 6,800 yards. Pete Dye has taken out all that ability to kind of bomb it all over the place by having fairly penal rough, some fairways that sort of snake through bunkers and other water hazards, and really asks players to get the ball in position to score. There's a lot. This is a northeastern golf course, so we're going to get bentgrass greens with a ton of POA in them, and they're fairly small, 5,000 square feet. In fact, the 2024 reservations that they just went through actually was in service of shrinking some of the pinnable locations, and so the green complex has actually got a little bit tougher. And which is just interesting in a golf course that has really, I mean, this is the golf course that Jim Furyk shot 58 on. Like players are used to going super, super low on it. But I think it's a birdie fest, unlike the birdie fest that we get earlier in the year where you kind of drive it all over the place and it's whoever makes the most putts. The golf course asks for something different to get to 25 under par. And that's get the ball into position so you can get it on the green.
Yeah, and these are greens that are very receptive. They are typically easier to hold than a lot of the kind of bent POA greens that you'll get throughout the year. Typically roll slower. I think they're projected to roll at a 12 on the Stimpmeter this week. For comparison, on Sunday, they were rolling at 15. So you're getting very different greens than we're getting in a lot of these events. And like you said, it's hit a good tee shot. If you put yourself in good position off the tee, you have a scoring chance on almost every hole.
Yeah. And I think that when we get into the stat profile here, I think that's what we're gonna be looking at. Is we're gonna be looking at players who can get themselves in position to score. The other thing that I do like about the golf course, and Pete Dye typically does this in a lot of his designs, is he does create that stadium feel. So the scene coming into 18, and we've seen some pretty dramatic finishes over the last couple of years with birdies being made on the final hole to get guys into playoffs, and then playoffs coming back through 18. But you do get that stadium surround around the 18th green with people sitting up on the hill, and it is a great location for seeing dramatic golf. It just, you come off of a grueling, and this is every year at the Travelers, you come off a grueling test at the U.S. Open, and then we put guys on a super soft, incredibly short, like I said, northeastern golf course. That this week just isn't about the golf, and I think it'll be interesting. I am interested in finding some players further down the board, because it's so hard to go through that grind last week, especially if you're one of the top finishers, and then come out here and shoot 65 every day.
Yeah, it's certainly a transition from what you get over at your U.S. Open venue of choice, whether that's Shinnecock, Oakmont, Pinehurst, LACC, Aaron Hills, whatever it is. It's just going to be a transition course. And you and I have extremely similar cards this week, to the point where you looked at the show sheet and we had to make sure that we didn't have exactly the same plays all the way across the board.
Honestly, when I opened the show sheet, I was like, did I send my picks to Jake and he already loaded them in? Because those are the guys that I picked. And then when you confirmed, I was like, well, should we even do the pod? What is there going to be to debate?
I think there will be some debate. You know, we've got some guys that are in similar price ranges, so we're certainly going to talk about the entire board as a whole, and we're going to talk about, you know, some of the things that we're looking at. But speaking of all of this, let's get these clubs twirling and start breaking down our models and our picks for the week. Looking at the books for this week, no real surprises for you because there weren't really any for me. Kind of what I expected.
Honestly, though, no surprises, certainly not at the top. I think there are some incredibly juicy numbers for guys that we're going to talk about that I think have no problem winning this golf tournament. So that's the only thing that I thought was worth commenting. Was I don't know why some of these numbers are so juicy in like the 40 to 80 range for guys with absolute win equity in this field, even with the top of the board being Scotty, Xander, Ludwig, Tommy, Cameron Young, Matt Fitzpatrick, Sam Burns, all these guys that have been rock stars the last month. I'm surprised we're getting some numbers that we are.
Yeah, I agree. And the markets already were as well. Just looking at current odds for some of the players that we're going to talk about, they've already shifted back in the books direction. But, you know, I didn't make a graphic for him because you had told me maybe. So I kind of held off on it. But I know one of the guys that the earliest odds that you were looking at were Siwoo Kim. You mentioned him at 31 to 1. Best odds you're going to find him now, 27 to 1, 28 to 1, depending on your book. Still in at that price, or is that starting to get too expensive for you?
I wasn't, you know, when he was at 31, I was like, well, there's too many other guys that I like in 35 plus that I don't need to pay up for Siwoo Kim. I think the thing, Siwoo is hitting the ball awesome. He's still hitting the ball awesome. He's had a number of great finishes. He did miss the cut this last week, but he finished second at the CJ Cup. He finished 10th at the Memorial. He's played out here a lot. He does not have a great track record at River Highlands, but his ball striking numbers and his driving accuracy numbers are really solid. I have him in this field. I have him 4th in driving accuracy, 11th in green and regulation percentage. But now that we're losing about 30% of the value on Siwoo, as those numbers have all shifted, like you said, back in the book's favor, he's also not a great putter. And I need a spike putting week this week. Like, you can hit the ball great, but if you don't have a spike putting week, you're not getting to 23 under.
Right.
And so I'm not interested at Siwoo at 31. I'm definitely not at 23.
Yeah, it's the same for me. I don't mind him for DFS lineups. He's top 10 in the model this week. He's 64th in a 72 player field in putting on this putting surface. You can have sure, there's some stats that are great. He's second in the field in birdie or better percentage over the last 30 rounds. He's over the last 12 months on short courses or very short courses. He is first in strokes gained tee to green. But as you said, that really hasn't mattered here. And he hasn't played well here. And it's just not something that I'm really expecting to play in his favor a lot. Now let's get to the part of the card that we are certainly loving the value that we got on. You're not getting this value anymore, unfortunately, for people tuning in now. But Russell Henley, we got him. I got him at 40 to 1. He's currently going off now at, I believe, 33 to 1 over on DraftKings. But this was an instant, like, I saw what course we were at this week, and I was just kind of like, yep, I'm betting on Russell Henley this week. I've got him 18th in approach overall proximity, 100 to 150, which we're going to see a lot of 175 and in this week. We're going to see larger numbers on everything from 175 and in. He's 12th there.
I saw some folks on Twitter getting Russell at 47, like as soon as the U.S. Open concluded, and I was like, that can't be right. Didn't he just lose in a playoff at River Highlands last year? And so it seemed wrong. He seemed like he was playing well enough for the U.S. Open in the weeks leading up to it to be in a good spot here. I would probably still take him at 34 if that's what you can get him at. I think to me, there are two players in this field. We'll talk about the other one. There's two guys in this field to me that are absolutely like locked and loaded, no question. I think are winning this golf tournament. Second in the field in accuracy, 36th in green and regulation percentage. But I got him first in my course comp setup, which I just put as River Highlands and Sedgefield this week. Mm-hmm. So a Pete Dye course, very positional. A Donald Ross course, very positional. Russell Henley has dominated at both, and I think he continues this. One of the straightest drivers of the golf ball, whether he's hitting driver or less than driver. And so I love Russell to put himself in position to go low this week. And the fun thing about Russell is that he has performed in a number of spots based on his ability to get the ball up and down. And so on a course where it plays pretty tough out of the rough from around the greens, I don't think he's going to need to rely on it. But I just think he's got the tools to be really great here again.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other things that I included in my model, there's so many holes that force you to take a risk reward shot if you want to get a good score on it. There's a lot of holes where you're forcing yourself to play over water. You're forcing yourself to play over a hazard. And so double bogey does come into play quite a bit at this venue. And he's 10th in the field in double bogey plus avoidance. So he's a man he's not going to make a big number more often than not. Sure, don't look at the U.S. Open. The man went 10 over. That's going to happen at the U.S. Open. It happened to quite a few different people. Jason Day almost did that in 9 holes. It's certainly something that plays to his favor, but like you said, was just an instant click for me. I would guess that this is probably the other player that you're referring to that is kind of just locked in. We think is probably one of the two favorites to win. JJ Spaun.
It's not mine. But I like Spaun. He was on our shared card. Why don't you tell me why you like Spaun?
Yeah, again, it just comes down to the accuracy and kind of the recent play that we're getting out of JJ Spaun. Second in the field in approach over the last 30 rounds from 150 and in. He's 17th. Good putting on this green. The par 4 scoring from 400 to 450 yards. He's top 12 there. Top 15 off the tee, 16th in bogey avoidance, 15th birdie or better percentage, 17th tee to green on short courses, distance from edge of fairway. So even when he's missing with the driver, he's 10th there. The around the green number could be a little bit better, but it's still about field average. It's still on the plus side of things. There's just really no major hole in the game. It's like him having that, that around the green number be at 48. It's like, he arguably has the second best profile besides Scotty. And there's arguments to be made that Scotty is just buoyed by a lot of the elite traits that he has in modeling. And so there's certainly things that can hold Scotty back here as well.
If you're into betting Scotty at 445 or whatever his number is this week, then go ahead and do it because he's going to top out in most models. But that's not why we're here. But yeah, if Scotty wins, I'm going on record to say, like, not a surprise if Scotty wins at the Travelers, but I won't be betting him.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. And when I can look at like a JJ Spaun profile and a Scotty profile and see them being realistically so extremely similar, and you're going to give me 40 something to 1 versus 4 to 1, like you can still get Spaun right now. He opened at 55 to 1 on FanDuel. It's down to 45 to 1. I would have loved to have gotten in at 55, but even getting in at 45, I'm certainly not mad about that.
He's fourth in my model. We've already talked about the guy who's second in my model, and the guy who's third in my model is Scotty. We're gonna wait until we get to number 1, but yeah, I'm all in on JJ Spaun.
All right, is Aaron Rai number 1 for you?
Aaron Rai. First of all, this number was not 55 to 1 24 hours ago. I think I had originally written him down when we were going in 76 to 1, right? Aaron Rai won the PGA Championship just a month ago, where he absolutely dominated hitting the ball straight off the tee, keeping it in play, and then dialing in his irons. Aaron Rai is fourth in the field in tee to green at my wonderful comps of Highlands plus Sedgefield. We know he's won at Sedgefield, a very, again, positional golf course. Second in the field in driving accuracy, fourth in distance from the edge of the fairway. And then a bucket that we haven't really talked about yet is when you play a 6,800-yard golf course, you end up with a ton of shots. I think it's close to 50% of the shots are in the 100 to 150 range.
Yep.
I have Aaron Rai as fourth in the field in proximity 100 to 150. If there's one thing that is going to hold him back here, it's his scrambling and scrambling from the rough. I have him in the bottom part of the field. And this is just me banking on the fact that Aaron Rai is going to hit the ball in the fairway, he's going to hit the ball in the green, he's going to hit 16 greens around and make a ton of putts and be right there. I think, again, we talk about this golf course rewards people who put themselves in position to score off the tee. Aaron Rai does that. I think it sucks that he's not 76 to 1 anymore and he's 55 to 1. But this is my favorite play of the week. And I think he has now this year has proven that he can stand up with the elite players on the PGA Tour. And this will be a much less stressful atmosphere for him.
Yeah. And like you said, this is a guy who a month ago won the PGA Championship. Just this past week, T11 at the US Open. Like, the man is playing phenomenal golf right now. Throw the RBC Canadian out the door. I think he wishes he probably didn't even go to that event, but it was a good warm up for him for the US Open, clearly, because he top 12. But yeah, basically everything you said, really, even his play around the green. I did add the filter in for it's a bluegrass fescue blend that you're going to get around the green here. He comes 40th. So right around field average. Really, the thing that was surprising to me over the last 30 rounds, his 50 to 100 number is 71st in the field. But also when you do the 0 to 100 number, it spikes back up. So I think it's just kind of, maybe a couple fluky events here and there. Again, it's not a bucket of shots that we see all that frequently, but everything else, get the man to 100 to 150 yards. I have him at third in the model. So,
and just look at the progression. I mean, he's only played at River Highlands 3 times, 40th, 24th, 17th, improving in his putting and his around each time. He's always hit the ball well off the tee here. He did have a really poor approach outing last year, even despite finishing 17th. And so I love the form that he's coming in with on a golf course that now he's had 3 years to figure out. I think this is set up. So, we're betting him outright, but go ahead and play him in DFS as well. I got to check some ownership numbers, but I think this has got top 5 written all over it.
Yeah, I would agree there. This is definitely one of the guys that I'm looking at for a full ladder play. It worked with Wyndham last week. Why not work with Aaron Rai this week? Give me 2 guys back to back that I can make fun of a little bit. I'll make fun of Aaron Rai for 2 gloves and iron covers, and I made fun of Wyndham for being Wyndham. All right, here's the fun part. I forgot to put these last set of players in order, so we're just going to click on something and see what we get. Oh, perfect. Alex Fitzpatrick, 60 to 1.
Yeah, where are you at on Lil Fitz? His profile is there's honestly, like, we're going to get to a point where we are honestly asking the question, who is the better Fitzpatrick? Matt, and I say that, a little bit of tongue in cheek, but Matt certainly has put up the results this year, but the trajectory that Alex has been on since he won the Hero Indian Open is kind of incredible. So he wins, the Hero, and then here I go. I'm looking at Matt Fitzpatrick. I'm like, that's the wrong Fitzpatrick. See?
Wins the Hero, basically takes a month off from tournaments to play in the Zurich, wins that, gets his card, T9, T4, doesn't have a great PGA championship,
but he makes the cut in the hardest cut to make.
And then T6, T20, T23s in his US Open.
Unbelievable. Like the trajectory is crazy. And this is the thing that I think is really impressive with Alex is that he is starting to become like an actual flusher. He hits, I got him 12th in the field in driving accuracy, 12th in 100 to 150. He hits the ball really well. 9th in tee to green and 5th in approach coming in. Like he's hitting the ball really, really well. And I think the only thing he doesn't have is he doesn't have history on these PGA Tour stops. So I have a tough time figuring out like how is he going to play River Highlands? He's never been here before. But
yeah, it's one of those profiles that like we have to kind of just admit it's still incomplete. And even knowing it's incomplete and there's stats that you put in the model that just aren't being factored in for him, and just seems like week in, week out, he's top 20 in my model. Like the man, like you said, I have him
he's playing really good.
Yeah. When you're just having great tournaments every time that you play, I've got him 4th in approach. I've got him 7th from 100 to 150, top 30 in putting, top 10 in par 4 scoring, top 10 off the tee, 12th in birdie or better. Even his distance from edge of fairway. Like, I think you could argue his weakness with the driver can be his accuracy at times. But even that, like when he's missing no more than Alex Noren or Alex Smalley is. They're the other two Alexes in the tournament. So they popped up when I searched Alex in the model. But like, there's not a major flaw in his game right now. I think you could argue his putter is probably what's holding him back the most, maybe his wedges to an extent. But even then, like, not everybody's going to have a great week with the wedges every week. Not everybody's going to have a great week with the putter every week. And the weeks that he's had even poor performances with those clubs are weeks where he's had a T4 or a T6 like at Truist or Memorial because his irons are so good.
Yeah. It's funny that we're talking about Alex Fitzpatrick in a signature event at 60-1. But that's like just another guy in this range of Henley, and we have Aaron Rai, we have Spaun, we have Lil Fitz. I think any of these guys are hitting the ball so good right now that they stand a chance on a golf course that neutralizes length.
Yep.
And I think there's just a ton of value here.
Yeah, 100% agree. The name that I was probably the most surprised to see us both in on, until I see, what stats we both put in our models, and, it definitely makes sense when you look at it. But it's not often that somebody else is in on Jackson Suber. It's rare that you're going to find two guys in on Jackson Suber on the same podcast.
Rare you're going to find one guy in on Jackson Suber besides maybe like his dad or something.
Yeah, but Suber is going off at 190-1. He's top 15 in my model this week. 10th in approach and putting. 5th overall, 100 to 150. 14th in the par 4 bucket that we're looking at. Top 30 off the tee. Avoids double bogeys. Top 15 in scoring. Really, the arguments you have are it's Jackson Suber. This is a guy who's still, relatively new to the PGA Tour, all things considered. He's only 26 years old. He doesn't have the history that a lot of these guys have. So his strokes gained tee to green on very short courses. We haven't seen a lot of it, so the number's naturally a little bit lower. He is not afraid to miss the fairway with his driver and miss it by a lot. He's 70th in distance from edge of the fairway, but then we get back and like the around the green numbers are good. Like, yeah, it's not a perfect profile, but the guy's going off at 190-1. He's $6,300 on DraftKings. Like, we're not expecting this guy to have, an elite profile at this number. That's just not going to happen. But Suber's a guy where, 190, say, you don't love betting a 190-1 guy to win the event. Cool. You think he can top 20? That's paying 5-1 over on FanDuel. If you think he can top 10, that's 16-1.
Which is crazy because a top 20 in this field is the top third of the field.
Yeah.
So can Jackson Suber make the top third of the field? Absolutely. I think the question, like you said, his last 4 or 5 events out have looked dramatically different off the tee than his previous 10. And so depending on how deep you go on some of your driving statistics, will probably tell the story there. He's been hitting a lot better. He has 2 top 4s in his last 4 events against real fields on real golf courses at the RBC Canadian and at the CJ Cup. So he has gotten results. Yeah, he missed the cut at the US Open, and certainly give him a pass for that. He's a young golfer. I would definitely be concerned with how he hits the driver off the tee and this course being a lot less forgiving. But this is a 6,800-yard golf course. If he can keep his less than driver clubs off the tee in play, I think he will be a very interesting play for a guy that has, frankly, has putted pretty well and has on this surface and has hit his short irons and wedges extremely well against this field. So This is definitely my favorite bomb play. I know we're probably going to talk about some others, but if you're trying to mix in a bomb and a signature event, I think Jackson Super is a great move.
Yeah, I'm actually looking up now. It's one of the things I love about the rabbit hole. I can look, less than driver. Still not the most accurate player in the field when it, less than driver, but even with less than driver in his hand, he's one of the longer players in the field. He'll still get it, get it out there. This is over all rounds over the last 6 months. But like you mentioned, his last, and I can see it here on Data Golf as well. Since the one flight, basically, he's been accurate off the tee. So that's what 20 rounds. You filter it over the last 20 rounds. The number certainly looks better. And it just gives you an opportunity to take advantage of, like we said, can he finish in the top 1/3 of this field? Absolutely. He's done it in larger field events that in some ways are harder events to finish in the top third, just naturally speaking in the nature of the events. So certainly a play that makes a lot of sense here. This one, this is the only one on the card for us that I was not in my scope here. So I'll let you convince me on why Mark Hubbard's 600 to 1 is someone
you want me to convince you why I threw a 600 to 1 play in here? Because, you got to make some of this interesting. Otherwise, we're just going to talk about the blue bloods all the time.
Yeah.
Mark Hubbard somehow still continues to kind of earn a journeyman salary on the PGA Tour. He's playing in signature events, which is just honestly shocking. He really hasn't been in much. And I actually probably should have done the research to figure out why Mark Hubbard is in these fields to begin with. He did have a second back at the One Flight Myrtle Beach Classic, but he played in the CJ Cup, made the cut at the Charles Schwab, missed the cut at the Memorial, a tiny cut, by the way, didn't play in the US Open. And so it is a little confusing. But if you really want to get goofy here and you pull him up in the stat model, he's a pretty solid
in on Aeon Swing 5, by the way.
Aeon Swing 5, which he must have got enough out of that finish at Myrtle Beach to be able to hold that position. Mark is popping on some of the ball striking numbers that I want to see this week. 7th in my model on approach, 29th in tee to green, 25th on tee to green on River Highlands and Sedgefield. My comp setup, 2nd in the wedge buckets, 100 to 150, 21st in par 4 scoring. Like, his numbers are holding up pretty good.
Top 20 putter in the field too.
And he always has been. I mean, it's because he uses a 31-inch putter and he has a super uncharacteristic approach. But, he's a guy that somehow sneaks into the top 10 in random spots. And I'm sure I should probably go grab his full kind of ladder numbers here. But I think Mark Hubbard is a guy that's got enough going for him. Wow, he's now the 2nd longest in this field, 20 to 1 to finish top 10. Again, you're only beating really like a 7th of the field trying to get into the top 10 this week.
Even then, it's 10 to 1 to top 20.
Yeah. I think he's got enough going for him with ball striking, again, on a short golf course that is going to reward somebody who just makes a bunch of putts after putting themselves in position. I don't know. I think it's fun to mix him in. I'll probably check out his DFS ownership numbers if I can get Mark in like the 1 or 2% range.
Yeah.
That's a fun pivot for a lineup. Lineups, especially in the DFS side, where in a signature event you're gonna have so much ownership get consolidated on the top players.
Yep.
You got to find some ways to pivot. Mark is he's got the stats coming in this week to be an interesting long shot.
Absolutely. Those are all the players that we have the cards for this week, but any other names that you are even just slightly interested in, or any numbers that you've seen out there that, took your fancy a little bit?
I still think Brian Campbell winning 2 tour events last year still has to be an auto click, because he's going to do it again on a stupid golf course like this. I am really interested to see how somebody like Sam Burns and I did not check. Is Wyndham Clark staying in this field?
Clark is still in the field as of
Monday night.
Yep.
I'm interested to see how the two of them, what they do with this event. Obviously, they're collecting a paycheck by showing up. They're not getting cut. They're playing golf for 4 days in a much different venue. I would be interested to see if either of those guys gets out here and contends after what they just did over the past weekend.
Absolutely. Clark's numbers have actually gotten more favorable for us if you're in on Wyndham winning back-to-back events. He opened at 2350 on DraftKings, 30 to 1 on FanDuel. He's up to 28 and 35 to 1 respectively on those books. So both guys that have gone favorable directions.
Do you just like, it gets so hard to be like, oh man, they're going to bounce back and they're going to come and contend again right after that performance. But you have to have so much confidence in your game, unless you're totally gassed, that again, like, wouldn't you rather take Wyndham or Sam Burns, who are playing incredible golf right now, over Ludwig, who can't close, the door to his bedroom?
Yeah.
Or, Xander, who looked, again, uninspiring on Sunday at the US Open.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, you look at some of the odds that are right in this range too, like Colin 30 to 1. Don't hate it. Justin Thomas 29 to 1 actually pops surprisingly well in my model. Not a player I typically expect to pop at an event like this. Patrick Cantlay has the best history you're going to find at this event. Just go bet Wyndham or Cantlay to top 20. Last time he didn't top 20 at this event was 2014. So even when he's not playing the greatest of golf, his last 8 starts here are T15, T15, T11, T13, 13, 4, 5, 12. The dude just plays well at this event. It's a course where I think for him, he doesn't have to try that hard. Doesn't have to think too much. He's got enough history here now that he knows, okay, I hit it here, and then I go hit it on the green, and then I make a putt, or maybe I got to putt twice. It's so, there's certainly still plays out there to be had. He's still giving you plus money to top 20, which is something he's done for 8 consecutive years.
Come on. That one I'm going to book. You don't give those tips lightly. Patrick Cantlay plus money, top 20.
Yep. Over on FanDuel, plus 115 to top 20.
Incredible stuff.
There are other guys out there. You can get Russell Henley to top 20 over on DraftKings. You can't get it on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, he's plus money to top 20 at this event. There's money to be made in the markets. Keith and I talked about it a lot last week. Like in a lot of these events where we're seeing tougher odds at the top, where Scotty is dragging things up, and then we see this massive cluster of people from that like 10 to 30 range. When we get these consolidated boards, there's a lot of money to still be made in ladder plays, in guys that you think can have good performances. Even if you don't necessarily think they're going to win the tournament, there's money to be made in the golf space, which is what we are all here to do. And we all appreciate you guys for all tuning in every single week to watch the show with us. Before we go, the event is not live on Fantasy Spin, but I did want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at Fantasy Spin. Fantasy Spin is a gamified experience where you can spin your lineups mixed with real life DFS and get your opportunity to hit the jackpot and win big. I have been on a bit of a cold streak since we brought Fantasy Spin on. I think we've brought too many of you guys over to the app. Too many of you guys are listening to us. You guys have all become sharks over there, but I'm still having a great time getting my lineup spun every single week. You get locks, certain number of spins. You can lock your players in, unlock them, respin them later. But your goal, just like every other DFS platform, is to build the best lineup possible. They have a variety of different sports. Currently, you can play baseball over there, NASCAR, obviously golf. We'll see football later on. NBA and NHL just wrapped up over there. So there's a game for everybody. You can play with their in-game currency as well, the tokens on there. So without spending money, you can invest your own money into that as well. Make sure you check out the link in the episode description. Download the app. Use code IBTGolf at sign up. Deposit at least $10 and play in one tournament. And if you do that, you will get $30 in bonus plays. And who doesn't love some free play? Am I right? I'm right. You don't have to tell me. I know I'm right. We all love free money. But guys, that has been another week of the 19th hole. Thank you guys all for tuning in, and we will see you all at our next tee time.